Hello and welcome. You're listening to the It's All in the Cards podcast, a horror fiction podcast where all questions are welcome, but you may not like the answers. Some material may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Sam dangles by a thread that I trapped her in. She fights hard not to scream, not to let the agony get to her, but she will break sooner or later. The sweat beads above her brows as she refuses to let me see her squirm, but I think we both know I've already won. I smile as she stares daggers at me.
Jade, a little help here?
The customer Sam's failing terribly to help glances my way. They seem patient enough. I glance at the items the customer's trying to buy and keep my face blank as I notice something Sam hasn't yet. I think I'll draw this out a little longer. As I reach for the boxes, a dull itch begins to grow up my ribs. Rubbing the spot with my elbow, I pick up the boxes of inventory in front of me and make my way down the hallway. Keep trying until I get these put up. I'm sure you can figure out what the problem is.
I know the problem, but not the solution. Jade! Okay, let me cancel this transaction one more time and see if we can figure out why this isn't ringing up.
It's good to make her writhe and sweat under pressure. It's good character building for her. She needs to be able to handle tense situations cool and collected. Not that I want her to have to ever face such a situation alone, but who knows what life will throw at her. I take my time stashing inventory on the shelves and tidying up the storage room. The damn itch on my ribs won't go away. Must have stirred up something to irritate my skin. As I'm stacking, a noise catches my attention in the corner of the storage room. Sounds like something rooting around in one of the boxes. I stop and listen for it again to narrow down which one, but it stops. Lovely. I have a pest. I'll deal with it later. As I'm coming up the hallway, I finally hear the cash register open. Sam hands the customer their money and bags up the books and crystals she's apparently sold to this person. I smile at her and the customer. See, I knew you could figure it out. My little trainee is just about ready to graduate to employee.
Here you go. Have a nice day.
The customer smiles and nods as they leave the store. I wait until they are out of the door. It was the rose quartz that was throwing you, wasn't it?
Yep, there was no price sticker and the barcode on the bottom of it was throwing an error message. So since you refused to help me, I decided to Google comparable prices for that size stone and charge about $1 more than that. Figured you'd be happy for me to err on the high side so you don't lose money.
There was never a price sticker on that rose quartz. It wasn't for sale. That customer must have gotten up on my top shelf and got it down. The moment they touched it, they took the energy of that crystal, which would make sense why you didn't get jolted with it bagging it up. I'm surprised, however, that you didn't sense the energy in the crystal when the customer brought it up. Sam's face turns a bright pink.
I thought only the top shelf behind the counter was off limits to customers.
You used the extendo arm to get it down for them, didn't you?
They asked specifically for that rose quartz, and there was no off-limit signs.
This gemstone is one for another client, like Miss Beth has for her negative feelings. I need it back. Go get them. You better hope they haven't gotten far.
When I get back, we've got to talk about more off-limit signs.
It's All in the Cards, Season 2, Episode 1, The Cursed Brother.
I put Sam back on inventory duty after she tracked down the customer and got them back to the store not only with the rose quartz, but for me to also pull the energy out of them. Since the energy was that of a drunken stupor, Sam didn't have trouble catching up to them. Thankfully, the customer thought they were just suffering from vertigo, so I was able to treat their symptoms and get most of the energy back with them none the wiser. The last thing I need is people thinking I'm casting curses on my customers.
Why would someone want to store the feeling of being drunk into a crystal?
Slow down and answer your own question, kid.
First ones that come to mind are kids too scared to get their own alcohol, but I know plenty who drink anyways. And you probably wouldn't help them, so it must be someone who can't actually get drunk but wants to? Pregnant women? Diabetics?
You left the glaring obvious one out.
Alcoholics? Are you really helping them relapse?
The world isn't all black and white. It's better that if they do it without actually killing their body.
Kind of like government departments handing out clean needles to the homeless.
Something like that.
I don't agree with either of those actions, but I get it. Just warn me if that customer comes in.
That is never someone I would make you handle. But on the note of you handling stuff, I think it's time for us to have the talk.
What did I do this time?
You've been more confident with your readings, and I think it's time I give you more independence with them. So, any clients that come in with a simpler question to answer, they're yours, along with the pay.
Really?
I can't imagine a way for you to mess this up, but if it does happen, we go right back to supervised readings or completely taking away clients. Depends on how badly you screw up.
No need to worry. I won't screw up. Thank you so much. When does this start? Does it start today?
We'll play it by ear. Depends on who comes in for a reading. Speaking of people who we can read, Rosalind enters the room, her posture as rigid as ever. She straightens her clothes as the door swings shut behind her.
Hello, you two.
Hi, Aunt Roz.
She makes her way to us, leaning against the counter. Her skin's paler than usual, but the bags under her eyes haven't gotten worse. I know it stressed her for a while to lose her seat, but once things settled down into our agreement, I thought it would relax her a bit. If anything, it's made her more on edge. I don't blame her either, but it's nice to know I can still get under her skin. What are you doing in this neck of the woods?
Making my monthly trip to Sam's Club. But I had a bit of news, so I thought I would just come deliver it personally. Because of a few key conflicts, we decided to move the next Coven class to tomorrow night.
Yes, the Coven classes. My obligational responsibility as per our new agreement. It wasn't that simple that night. Though if I could have held on to my rage and slaughtered them all, I wouldn't be in this mess. But Rosalind agreed to step down, clearly not the leader they needed anymore. Or at least not right now. I was surprised to hear as much murmuring for my installment as I did, but their hesitation masked my own. It was decided that Maureen would step back in the role as interim, and during her time as interim I would complete the classes on witchcraft that the Coven gives to their potential members. I wanted to tell them all to kiss my ass, but Sam dangling the secrets of what happened to my mother in my face was too much to turn my back on. Part of me is pissed that Sam, a teenager who wasn't even born yet the night it happened, would be privy to the truth. Maureen nor Roz contradicted Sam when she said she knew, so I had to act on her words. And so, bi-weekly Coven classes it is, until I've satisfied whatever arbitrary need they have of me to demonstrate I can be High Priestess. All that's left is for me to decide if I want that title. Sam leans closer to her aunt, as if they're telling secrets.
Will tomorrow be the multiple paths for the journey class?
There will be talk of that, but I think we are focusing on the history of the Coven for the next 2 classes.
If that's the case, then Jade and I will be taking a night this weekend to explore other paths.
We both look at Sam as if she just sprouted a second head. I'm what now?
You told me you would help me find where I fit, and Aunt Roz gave her blessing. But we've done nothing yet. I'm tired of waiting. I want to learn more now and not just through all the books I've been reading. I want to meet other practitioners.
And who said I wanted to spend my weekend gallivanting with a teenager?
Because I thought it would give us an opportunity to talk about your mom as well.
Are you an avid country music listener? Join me, Miss Helen, and producer Kyle on the Texas Toast podcast, where we talk with some of country music's biggest stars, like Parker McCollum, Josh Abbott, and Pat Green, as well as my favorite part, new upcoming performers and songwriters like Dylan Gossett and Braxton Keith. We learn all about their journeys into music and what makes them tick, along with never-before-heard stories about the making of their songs. Join us every Tuesday and Friday wherever you get your podcasts, and you might just learn about your new favorite artists.
Roz and I both freeze, but for different reasons. I doubt she's raging over the fact that Sam likes to use her knowledge to get me to do every damn thing she wants. Though she fights to keep her face blank, emotions dance over Rosalind like spotlights on a ballroom floor. She's trying to keep the peace, but knows that's a touchy subject. Sam gives no shits. She's getting too much like me for me to tolerate much longer. Fine. As long as your loving aunt says it's okay. You're not 18 yet. You still have to do what she says.
We can discuss it more when you get home. I've got to run. You two stay out of trouble.
If you love me, you'll get a big bag of Almond Joys.
Sam gasps as a noise from the bookshelf startled both of us. Several books fell off the new releases display. I thought you said you had all that perfect.
Well, apparently not. Don't worry, I'll clean it up.
You do that. I'm going to find some anti-itch cream.
You okay? You've been scratching at your side a lot.
Probably just the pangs of teenage angst I feel from hanging around you so much. Get to work. Sam scampers off before I could finish my sentence, busying herself with cleaning up the mess she made. I turn back to the register, intent on making some off-limit signs for Sam, but the jingling of the bells over the door stops me. I turn to see a dark-haired man wrapped in a flannel so old and faded that I know without touching it that it would be soft. His mouth is tight, and there is a tension around his eyes, as if something has been keeping him up at night. Good afternoon. Can I help you find something?
You the lady who does the readings?
I glance back at where Sam disappeared before shrugging. He seems like an easy enough read, but since she's busy fixing her mistakes, I'll have to take the commission. That's me. I'm Jade.
Julius.
He holds out his hand and I give it a shake, taking in the worn and calloused palms. This is not a man who was afraid to work with his hands. Come on back to the reading room, Julius, and we can see if we can get you some answers. He follows me back, heavy work boots clomping behind me. I sneak a look to watch as he moves the vervain aside. There is no sign of anything dangerous about him. None on the outside, at least. After the last few months, I don't know how helpful my vervain really is anymore.
You gonna let your hackles down just because he doesn't get welts from a weed? You really think that's going to protect you?
I start at the familiar voice. Though he was only here for a short time, I would recognize it anywhere. Taking in the essence if someone can do that to you. I dart my eyes around the room, searching for Damien, the serial killer I disposed of last year, but everything seems to be normal. The heavy curtains on the window, the shelves of tarot cards on the wall, nothing is out of place. Julius walks around the table, none the wiser to the voice I'm hearing, and settles in the chair opposite mine. I take a deep breath and decide to ignore him. Whatever is going on, Julius clearly can't hear it, so it's either in my head or in my ears. Once we are both seated at the reading table, I pull out my deck of cards and begin shuffling. What questions do you have for the cards today? He shifts in his seat, more uncomfortable with the space back there than out front.
I've been thinking on it for a while, and I don't know what to do. I heard about you doing the readings to solve some people's weird problems, so I guess I figured I would see if you can help.
Help with what, Julius? I can't do a reading without a question first.
See, it's my brother. Berlin's normally this happy guy. Very friendly, always talking people's ears off and making friends wherever we go. He lives down in Louisiana still, outside Shreveport. But I try to make it down to see him whenever I can. He's family, right? But for the past 2 months, though, he's been avoiding me. At first, Berlin said he was staying home because he was sick, which made sense. Nobody wants to pick up a cold if they can avoid it. So I stayed away. But then he started making excuses. He was busy at work. He didn't feel like going out. He was sick again. It just all felt like a lie, you know? So finally I gave up calling and just drove down there. 5 hours I drove. Just so I could see my brother and make him talk to me. I thought maybe I pissed him off or something, or maybe he had a new girl that he didn't want to tell me about. He did that sometimes. Fool around with some local girls and then drop them when they got clingy. I don't know what was going on for sure, though. I knew it was weird. And I wanted to get to the bottom of it. So, I get to his house and it's almost dark out. He lives out near the woods on a big plot of land so he can go out hunting from his backyard. Sometimes he and I would sit out there with some beers and a shotgun, just waiting to see if something will come by. Usually, those nights just ended up with us getting plastered in the dark. But that was alright. We were together. The lights were on when I knocked on his door, and I could hear him moving around in there, but he wouldn't answer. I kept knocking, though, because I was getting angry. Berlin, you can't ignore me. I can hear you in there moving around. Finally, I heard him coming to the door, turning the deadbolt and pulling the chain off the hook. I didn't think I'd ever see him put the chain on his door, but it was on that night. When he opened the door, it was like he was a different person. He's normally my height and tan from working construction jobs, but that night, he was stooped and pale and a sheen of sweat showing on his forehead. And the smell. It was like he hadn't bathed since the last time I saw him. If he had said he was still sick, I would have believed him. He looked that bad. But that's not what he said.
Go away.
His voice wasn't sickly or weak. It was strong, and he was angry. But there was something else in his eyes, too. Some I didn't recognize. Burl, I'm not leaving. Not until we hash this out and you tell me what's going on. Are you sick? Is it drugs?
Go away, Julius. You shouldn't be here. Not right now.
I'm not
I said go away, or I will make you go away.
I wasn't about to fight a shotgun empty-handed. So I walked back to the truck, hands up. He watched me get into the cab and start it up, not lowering the shotgun until I was far down the driveway. He was still on the porch when I reached the road and turned for home, watching me leave.
I set the cards down, listening to his story before asking the obvious. What kind of answers are you looking for here? Because this doesn't sound like anything weird is happening, outside of your brother having a bad case of meth. He shakes his head at that.
Nah, he wouldn't do drugs. We had buddies back in high school that got into that shit, and we swore nothing would make him go back on that.
He looks me dead in the eyes as he speaks, his certainty making me want to believe him. I pick up the cards, ready to start the reading. So what's your question?
What is happening to my brother? How can I save him? Can I even save him?
I nod my head slowly, focusing on his words. Let's see what the cards have to say. I flip over the first card, still not sure if I'll be able to help him. But if it's drugs that are making his brother act strangely, the cards will tell us. I expected the devil, for addiction, but that's not what I turn face up on the table. The Five of Cups. This card is your brother's present reality, submitting to misfortune and feeling abandoned.
I did not abandon him. I was there for him.
I hold up my hand, pausing his rant. This doesn't mean he's feeling abandoned by you. It could be something else, or the world in general that he feels has let him down. Julius takes a breath before motioning me to continue. The Magician reversed. This is how the past is influencing the present. It looks like someone is misusing their powers for destructive purposes. He opens his mouth to argue with me again, but I give him a stern look. Do you always take things this personally? This reading is about your brother, not you. We have to look at all the cards before we can get a full picture and find out how you can help him, if at all. Now, does your brother have any powerful people in his past? Julius thinks for a second, his eyes turning up.
He was dating this woman for a while who said she was a witch. But I don't think he really believed her. I don't know if that would be powerful, but she could be crazy.
Ah, yes, the crazy ex-girlfriend. I roll my eyes at him, but continue. If she is a witch, she could have put some sort of spell on Berlin. Do you remember her name?
Moira, or something. I don't know. He went through girlfriends like crew through beads, throwing them to anyone.
Maybe she didn't appreciate being thrown away. He nods quietly, taking in what I said as I continued to flip the cards. The Eight of Swords. Okay, here we go. This one is all about restrictions and isolation, usually self-imposed. It sounds like your brother knows what's going on with him, and is trying to keep himself away from people, especially you.
And why would he do that? Why wouldn't he want me to help him? He's never been too embarrassed to ask for my help before.
Maybe this is something he doesn't think you can help with. I watch him take that in, struggling to understand his brother's reasoning. I turn back to the cards, turning over the fourth one. The Sun reversed. I tap the card lightly. This position is how the current actions are affecting the future. With the Sun reversed, I'm seeing loneliness, the loss of relationships, uncertainty that this path is the correct one. I think your brother has made a decision and is questioning it because of how it is affecting the people around him, how it's affecting you.
How can I help him if he's trying to keep me away?
Julius leans his elbows on the table, running his hands through his dark hair. I can feel the anxiety coming off of him in waves, sharp and tangy like pine resin. One more card. Maybe this one will have the answer. I have to keep myself from dropping my head into my hands when the last card shows its face. Death.
I am not killing my brother. I don't even know what's going on with him. You haven't told me anything. And you expect me to pay you for this?
He stands up, shoving his chair back as he does. It clatters to the floor loudly, the sound ringing through the room. Pick that up and sit down. He stares me down for another second before doing as he's told, slamming the legs of the chair hard into the floor before dropping into it. Death doesn't mean death. Not in the world of tarot. It's a metaphorical death, a sign of big changes, a transformation. It can be a good thing if your life is in need of a big shakeup.
So what? He's changed into something else.
I think about all of the cards together, the misfortune, the misuse of powers, the self-isolation. There's definitely some kind of transformation happening here. Whether it's natural or not is still up in the air. Do you have anything of your brother's?
What?
A physical item. Something he gave you. Do you have anything from him? He pats his pockets for a second before pulling out a set of keys. Carefully, he selects a bottle opener keychain, ramshackle bar and grill, barely visible across the side.
This is from his local watering hole. He won it in a cornhole tourney last year. He gave it to me because I always have my keys on me when we're drinking in his yard.
I take the bottle opener from him, the metal still warm from his pocket. Closing my eyes, I open myself up to it. The visions come in flashes, shifting from one to the next so quickly I wonder if I'm just imagining some of them. A woman laughing, teeth pointed and dark hair waving in an invisible breeze. A scratch on bare skin, bright red bubbles of blood appearing. A creature stalking through the woods, the body of a man, but the head that of a wolf, the teeth stained with blood. And through it all, waves of terror rolling through my body, followed by the serenity of acceptance. Julius, do you know what a rougarou is?
Yeah. It's a bedtime story to keep kids from misbehaving. Make your bed or the rougarou will get you. If you don't follow Lynn, the rougarou will eat you. That kind of thing. It's not real.
I nod along, understanding the pieces. See, that's where you're wrong. These stories we tell children, they all come from a little bit of truth.
You think my brother got bit by a rougarou?
No, I think he was cursed into being one, by the lovely Moira. He shakes his head, almost laughing.
Why wouldn't he just say something if that were the case? He could tell me. He could trust me.
What else do you know about them?
They're like werewolves, but they turn every night for 101 days. Then it's over. They crave raw meat. You can pass along the curse by scratching or biting someone. If you...
Finally, he got it. Yes?
If you talk about being a rougarou, you're cursed as a rougarou forever.
Bingo. Your brother wasn't trying to push you away. He was trying to save you, and probably anyone else he would normally come into contact with. I'm guessing he's just trying to wait out his 101 days, and then he can go on with his life and pretend it never happened, and hopefully stay away from vengeful witches.
So, I can't help him? He just has to wait it out and hope he doesn't pass it along to anyone?
Well, there are stories. Some say that if you can identify a Rougarou in its wolf form and draw blood, it will end the curse early. I've never seen it done, but I've heard through the grapevine. I stand and lead him out of the reading room, pulling small stones from a bin by the register. He stomps behind me, heavy boots loud on the wooden floor.
That's it? You're just going to tell me a second-hand story and expect it to work?
I give him a side eye and hold out my hand. Everything is a toss-up when you're dealing with the supernatural. We can only learn from the stories and try to do the right thing. Here. This is just another unverified story, but it could help keep him in place.
Rocks? How are rocks supposed to help?
They say that Rougarous can't count past 12. Something about midnight and 12 hours on the clock. If you put a series of 13 or more objects near where it is, it will try to count them and keep getting confused and start over.
So, these will keep him in place while I say his name and stab him?
He looks down at the colorful stones I chose, his skepticism showing across his face. Just a little stab. Enough to draw blood. You don't want to seriously hurt your brother. He looks up at me, brows drawn together.
What if I can't? What if he doesn't work?
Then you'll follow your brother's original plan and let him wait out his 101 days. Just make sure that whatever you do, the two of you never discuss this. It could bring on repercussions that you don't want to deal with. He nods, looking overwhelmed but at least more secure than when he first walked through the door. I ring him up for the reading and the stones, and he pays without a word. Sam appears at my side as the bells over the door announce his departure.
You couldn't have stalled him until I was free?
Do you know anything about Rougarous? Sam purses her lips in frustration before shaking her head. Then you wouldn't have been able to help him on your own anyway.
And why do you happen to know so much about everything?
I've got almost 2 decades of studying through research or first-hand experience. Start with your books, kid. You don't want the first-hand experience. I watch the man walk away through the front window, wondering which choice he'll make. I know what he should do, but people seem to find it hard to make the right choice, myself included. Why don't you go home early? I don't think anyone else is coming in today. I'm going to lock up.
Are you sure? We could close up and talk through some of the other paths you promised. Then you wouldn't have to spend your weekend with a teenager.
I'm going to go ahead and push that off for another day. Thanks anyway. Sam sticks her tongue out at me, but packs up her bag to head home. I watch her leave, waving a little as she walks out the door. Locking it, I turn to the back of the store. I head down to the basement, moving through the darkness with confidence. I am no stranger to the blackness that surrounds me, and the layout of my shop is as familiar as my own home. Turning under the staircase, I hit the hidden switch, revealing a passageway that leads further into the hill beside the Arkansas River. Grabbing the lantern I keep on a stack of boxes, I head into the tunnel. I don't need to see what's down there. I want to. The light from my lantern reflects off of the glistening body of Mr. Giggles, who moves towards me when he sees the light. Hello, my sweet boy. Have you been having fun with our guest? I run a hand along his scaly snout, sliding it down the length of his body. Mr. Giggles gives a satisfied harumph before moving away, creeping towards the water nearby until he disappears beneath the surface. He's done his job for the day. He's free to hunt.
If I'm a guest, can I get some fresh towels? Or a neck pillow? Or a bed?
I turn to take in the creature that Mr. Giggles has been keeping watch over. He's still wearing his mud-spattered suit, although it's definitely worse for wear after weeks spent down here. His dark hair is oily and long, and his skin is paler than it had been the last time we spoke. If it wasn't for the utter darkness of his eyes, I'd feel sorry for the thing. Hello, pest.
Hello, Jade.
Hello, dear listeners. Did you enjoy the first episode of Season 2? We've got a lot of changes coming up. Jade taking classes with the Coven, teaching Sam some magical paths. And what is with the itching? That can't be good. At least some things never change. We got a fun reading in this one, and some hints to the future with the pest in the basement. I wonder who that could be. Find out on the next episode of It's All in the Cards. This episode of It's All in the Cards podcast was written by Ashley McAnelly and Morgan Valko. Theme music for this episode was composed by ThaArsonist and produced by Scott Thomas, featuring the voice talents of Ashley McAnelly, Nichole Goodnight, Scott Thomas, Jessica McEvoy, Atticus Jackson, Jessie Cornett, and Reagan Tacker. If you would like to support the show, you can join our Patreon and get ad-free episodes, early access, and exclusive bonus content, including the spin-off series, The Deck of the Eternals, available to our Celtic Cross-Spread subscribers. To find out more about our podcast, please visit us at itsallintthecardspodcast.com, and be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at It's All in the Cards Podcast, and Twitter at It's All in the Card. Links in the show notes. It's All in the Cards podcast may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised.